Ls Garage, episode 5 of the Turbo Tonner build. This episode, not really going to have much to do with swapping the V6 out, so to speak. It's more just going to be working on the engine bay, cleaning it up, doing a bit of clearancing for the turbo kit. So we're going to do some grinding, some welding, some bogging, some sanding, some painting, and yeah, I just thought I'd share it and we'll just make this bay look a little bit cleaner. Let's have a look and I'll run you over some of the things I'm going to do. It's pretty dirty. We will degrease and clean, but first let's remove all the bits that we don't need. I need to get rid of that brace, because the turbo dump pipe goes down right through there and that will no longer be needed. I have done cars in the past where I've removed that brace and absolutely no noticeable difference to the integrity of the chassis or anything like that. It's probably just engineering overkill from GM. There's some heat guards down under here. I've got no time for that. They just rattle, carry on. My dump pipe will be fully heat wrapped. I don't think it's necessary. There'll be no exhaust on this side, so that one's definitely not needed. So we'll get them heat covers off, that brace off. The firewall has this fabric cover on it. Yeah, that's no good either. I've already half torn it off when I was doing the master cylinder there, so I'll end up tearing all that off. There's old fuel line brackets from the V6. Take that off. There's these little things that hold the fabric on, little turn plug things, and there'll be studs that hold that too. I'll end up cutting them off. I'll leave them there because that's where the fuel reg is going to sit, because going from V6 to V8 you will need an adjustable fuel reg, because the V6 fuel system is not regulated. The V6s have a regulator on the rail, so to use the V6 fuel system you will need a reg. So we'll leave them for the reg. I'm not going to go into that too much more in this episode. Down here we're going to have to cut this lip down a little bit along here down to the flat with this, because the air conditioner lines, the wastegate, the turbo return lines all pass around this area here, and it's just going to be that little bit nicer. We take that lip off and then I'm going to re-seam weld it all the way along when I cut it down flat with that, so we'll go into that as well. The coolant bottle, it has to go, because the intercooler pipe goes right where that is. So we'll be putting a different coolant overflow bottle in it. The factory one's huge, it takes up a lot of room under there. It's actually a big triangular thing that sits under the guard. I'm gonna get rid of this, which is like a boss for the coolant reservoir tank. For if it was V8, that's where the coolant reservoir tank would sit, on there, and the airbox also sits on there in the V6. Oh, focus. So get rid of that. I'm going to put a cut in there, belt it flat, re-weld it. Also, this is one of them quick clips, the back of it, that holds the inner guard in. I'll end up taking that out, welding a little bolt in there so I can put a little nut, a little washer on it instead of that, so that'll be flat there. Just tidies that up. I'm not too worried about this seam sealer stuff. It is only a street car, but just a little bit of effort there just makes a fair bit of difference. On this side, I'll get rid of that amplifier wiring, and this car is not ABS, non-cruise control, but it's still, the chassis still comes with the plate or the mount for it. Normally the cruise control module will bolt there and the ABS will sit in there. Not needed. I'm going to get rid of that completely. It'll just tidy up that inner guard there so much more. And that's going to be a case of drilling out all the spot welds that are on there. Try not to go too deep. And there's also spot welds on there. All around there, I'll drill them, or there's another way to do it. You can use a Dremel grinder and just grind them. See which way works easier. Tidy that up. Grind it up, bog it up. And then yeah, we'll get some paint in there and just rattle can paint. She's only a street car, this is just budget. but that tiny bit of effort now will actually make a fair bit of difference. So I'm gonna tear most of that stuff out now. Probably won't film any of that. Stuff's all removed. Moving on. Got all the bottles gone. Those couple of bolts and quick clips and what have you. All the fabric's gone. Heat shields, that bracket. Fair bit of cutting to go on there still. All the studs that are left over. I did take the battery tray out just because it's so filthy, this engine bay. I can get under there and give everything a good scrub soon. I suppose there's a little bit of a pile of just what I've taken out. Just going straight to the bin. No good for me. Might set up the tripod there and get you set up on how to drill out a spot weld on the body. I've done one there, so I've got the hang of it, and I'll set you up and sort of show you what's involved. I've got you set up on the tripod, zoomed in on one of these spot welds that I'm going to drill out for you. I'll show you how I do it. You'll be able to identify where the spot weld is. You'll see the little recess there. There you go, you can sort of see that recess. That's a spot weld that holds this bit of plate to the body. So we want to get rid of them. I find I've done the one above it. I've found the easiest way to do it is certainly start off with a centre punch so that your spot weld drill bit doesn't walk around. Put it in the middle of the spot weld and give it a tap, and that'll give it a nice starting point. That starting point helps the drill bit not walk around. And you get these special spot weld style drill bits that are real shallow little focus. It's struggling. You can see that there's just a tiny little point on there and it's very flat. Once you get centre punched, you can put the tiny little centre of the drill bit in there and it won't walk around. So it's just a case of drilling it out slowly. You only need to go deep enough to take out that first layer of metal. You actually don't want to go any further. The further you go, you don't want to blow through the back of the panel, that's for sure. We're close. You just keep a close eye on it. You'll see when it pops because you'll see a crack or it might pop. That's it. You're in deep enough. The spot weld's gone. So I've got about half a dozen of these to do around here. I'll go through and do them. I've managed to go through and drill them all. Show you all the spot welds on that bracket. There's 4 on the top. I did peel back the joint sealant, I suppose, the mastic sealant that on the body there. There's actually no spot welds under there, it's just glued under there. So now I'll get a chisel, flathead screwdriver or something like that and just lever it under here and just slowly pop it off, not putting too much weight on it because I don't want to bend the crap out of that inner guard. I don't want to do too much body work to it, just a light skim of bog after this and happy days. The bracket is gone, came off pretty easy. The spot welds tore tiny little holes on 3 little holes, but I'll just belt the panel in a little bit so it's dished in so it will hold a little bit of body filler and it'll be fine. So that's gone. Next thing I'm going to move on to is cutting all the little studs off everywhere. Okay, an update. Been busy on the cutting wheel, on the grinder. I like to use the little paper thin ones, they cut nice. I have cut that lip off along there, you can see. I've not welded it yet. The studs have been chopped off the brace. A couple of studs gone there now too. All the little studs that were hanging onto that fabric stuff for the screws, they're all cut off. Then also it'll focus. The light's pretty bad. I'll put a cut up through there, and that's so that the steel had somewhere to go when I smashed it round. I used the two hammers, so I put the fat hammer underneath the bottom of the guard and then just belted down on it, just to try and flatten it out so there's the minimum amount of bog possible in there. Also, you can see where the little inner guard clip was. I found a little flat bolt and I smacked that down. I actually put an extension bar in there and smacked it down so that I'm about to weld that in. Weld it, grind it a little bit more, and it'll actually be flat across there, but I'll wipe some bog over it and it'll disappear. That's ready for welding too. I've run the flapper wheel over everything I'm going to put bog on, because I like my bog to go to bare metal. Flapper wheel around there. Now this is all dippy and dished, so to speak, so the flapper wheel can't really get in there. So what I use is I get my air dremel or air grinder, this thing here, and I put a little carbide round in it, and that chews the paint off real nice. Real nice. And I also got this side all flap wheeled, and I use that little round carbide bit just to shape this seam sealer stuff, because this is all clumpy here from where that bracket was. So I've shaped this back nice and smooth, and I'm going to get some Sikaflex or some seam sealer and redo from there to there to try and make it look factory. I could go through and peel all that out and weld it and smooth it, but it's just a street car. Just tidy, standard looking, it will do me. Also got the flap wheel over where all these spot welds were. Everywhere I'm going to put a bit of bog now. It's all flap wheeled up, fairly smooth, ready for some bog. So another thing I also did was made clearance for the compressor housing on the turbo. And you probably wonder, how do I know where that goes? Well, the whole turbo kit that I built was all mocked up on the wreck when the motor was still in it. So I built all the manifolds and everything, and you can see there, the sun's pretty bad, but I've got the same hole, so I just made a paper template in there, traced around it and transferred it over. And to get that hole shape, I just simply, well, to get it out, I just used the hole saw, buried a few of them through it, and then I changed over to this carbide bit flatter surface, and just stuck it in on the engine, ground it out. So that's where we're at, getting through it. It was tough. I had the weld a little bit high at the start, blew a couple of holes, turned it down, and then got it done. The heat did warp it a little bit, so I tapped it back around and then got the flapper wheel out, tied it all up. I've already rubbed all these patches down with acetone, so I'm ready to put some bog on there, and or some Bondo or body filler, and yeah, I'll mix some of that up and get it on. I'm going to put that bog on while it's drying. I'm going to weld this bottom one. So the body filler is done. Only took 2 coats, fair bit of sanding. Certainly not my favourite thing to do. Side there, the light's just bouncing a bit funny, but yeah, it's filled up. I'm about to spray some high build primer on there. I have rubbed it down with wax and grease. This weld came up quite nice. Seam welded along there all the way. Gave it a bit of a rub with the flapper wheel, so it's nice and smooth. It'll give me the clearance I need. So yeah, getting through it. I'll throw some primer on there and 3 coats of primer filler. It's looking really good. Stoked. Just gotta let it go off a bit. Maybe hit it with a heat gun, speed it up a bit, try and get it sanded tonight, so I can get the seam sealer up around that top left strut tower there, so it's dry for tomorrow morning, so I can finish this off. So a couple of hours have passed. That high build primer or primer filler has gone off. I gave it a good sand. Extremely happy with how it's come up. I've rubbed wax and grease remover over it, cleaned it all up, just in the area where the primer is. and I'm actually going to throw some paint over it to seal it all up. I want it to go completely dry with a coat of black on it, because I'll end up washing it all tomorrow morning, wet sanding the whole inside of the guards to scuff it all up ready for a final coat of paint, so everything will be clean for the final coat. So job now, put a coat over this primer, seal it all up so the moisture doesn't get into it tomorrow off the hose and the gurney. Once I seal it up with a coat of black, this side I'm going to hit with a heat gun just to dry all that out so I can put the seam sealer in, head to bed, and I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. Next morning. I ended up staying up late last night and I did get a coat on. Come up well. Threw some seam sealer on. I actually didn't want to get that too perfect because it wouldn't match if I made it too smooth, so it's a little bit rough. Probably if anything it's a little bit too smooth to match the rest, but I think that'll be fine. Everything's dried up and I've already got the car outside above the gravel because I'm about to degrease and gurney the absolute crap out of it. Get all that mess out of there. I've taped up the big hole for where the loom goes through, taped up the TX valve, taped up the fuel lines, anything that you don't want water to go in. So yeah, the greaser I use is the super cheap stuff. It's just like a foam, but that is cheap, $3 a can. Just buy it in bulk and yeah, spray it on and gurney it off. Got a bit of dishwashing liquid there, a few scrubbing brushes, and just hook into this. Right all. You can see I will spray this on every square inch of this engine bay. Let it go off, it just eats into the dirt and gurney it off. It's super good stuff. 3 cans later, let it soak. You can just see it's just melting the dirt off. Good stuff. Now I did push this out, put it above the gravel so I don't make a mess on the concrete, but also I took the wheels off because I'm going to get under there and degrease and clean all under the guards. She's a bit of a pig under there. Clean all the suspension arms and stuff, make it a bit more tidy. So yeah. Definitely satisfying watching the dirt just come off. Just melting the dirt under the guards. Just clean her up. Fully degreased. Now I'm going to run over everywhere. I'm going to paint with a bit of 600 wet. Keep the water on it, keep it wet. That'll help take the sheen off anything, make the paint stick, and also deep clean as well. Pretty much sanding any leftover dirt that'll be there. So I'll be sanding all in through here, all there, all these inner guards where I'm going to paint. This side, all through here. I'm not going to really worry about the top or the back corner. So I'm not going to paint there, just down in here. The paint that I paint it with is nearly the same colour as the factory paint. You can't even, the factory engine bay paint anyway, you can't even tell the difference. So yeah, I'm going to keep it wet, sand all that, and yeah. Wet sanded, washed, dishwashing liquid, back down on its wheels, pushed it out the front, ended up giving the whole thing just a bit of a wash. This is covered in crap. Got to try and look after that work ute patina. So now it's just a matter of doing what we can to get this dry. So I'm blowing it out, get all the water out, do what you can. Waiting for it to dry. I'm going to give this bad girl a bit of a clean up and degrease while I've got all the stuff out. Oh yeah, it's a thing of beauty. That'll be for getting it ready for the next video. So after this dries out, tape it up, start laying some paint. A couple of hours have passed. It's dry. I've taped up where I don't want paint. Waxing grease removed. I even hit it with a heat gun just to make sure there's no moisture in any of the little gaps and crevices that are all in there. So I'm just about to lay down some paint. Main tip would be don't go too thick straight away. Just nice light coats. This is the paint I use. It's a rust scarred epoxy enamel. I go satin black. I find that the epoxy enamel just sticks like crazy, and it's hard. It sets super hard. It's pretty scratch resistant, and I've used it before in other engine bays, and it holds up to heat really well as well. So yeah, a bit of the other brand I used was actually Rust Kill, but I found this one. I'll just give this one a go. It should be fine. Alright, I'll lay down some paint and I'll show you some progress. First coat's in, using the satin black on the guards, and then I use the gloss black on the K-frame down the bottom. Make it nice and glossy down there, just in case there's some sort of oil leak you need to wash it off. Gloss seems to wash off it a little bit better. Bit of contrast as well, but yeah, happy with how it's coming out. Bit of rattle gun action. Rattle can, I should say. But yeah. Let it flash off for 10-20 minutes, then hit it again. Yes, finally. Paint done, taking the tape off. It's still drying, it's probably still a tiny bit tacky, so it might matte off a little bit, the satin. But I'm really happy with how it's come up. Just looks a lot cleaner. Like, it's not perfect. There's a bit of a hump in this side. No big deal. Once a turbo sitting there, that'll be the last thing someone will notice, or anyone will notice. Still just looks standard. Doesn't even really look like you're going for a real smooth engine bay. So yeah, it's probably possibly the end of the video, I'd say. It's been a bit of a ride up to this point, but I really feel like I've sort of gone over the top of the hill. I'm on the way down now. All the hard bits, unfun parts are over. It's all going to be about putting that V8 and turbo kit in now, and just some enjoyable work coming up. If you enjoyed this video about doing the engine bay, and if it was helpful or anything like that for you, hit the like button for us. If you want to follow the build, of course, subscribe, hit the little bell, it'll tell you when my next video is. And also comment any questions, I'll answer them. You know, you got any advice, even give us some advice on there, whatever you want. Just write something in there if you want. And the next video, we're actually going to prep the engine, the clutch and the gearbox, ready to put in. So it's definitely fun times from here. Alrighty.